Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the SVT podcast. I am with my guys, Sam and Vince. How y'all fellas doing tonight?
Everything's good, man.
I'm a little worried. No, I'm good, man. I'm super excited to talk sports with you guys.
How's Tim doing on our ones and twos over there?
What? It's oneing and twoing.
Love it. Oh, that's great.
So big day, big night, big show. Everything's been big this whole week. We had NFL playoffs kicking off. We'll be getting into that shortly. Big night for the NBA too, as far as their fans that attended a certain game in a certain southern state. I think it's southern. We'll call it southern.
Oh yeah, yeah, they're southern.
A couple news about the old MLB. We're going to get into that, and a fellow someone who's going back because he couldn't get anywhere with the two places that he agreed to have contracts with. And then we'll round out the night with a good old Sharky duck hunt and see where we're at with there. So right off the bat here, let's go with Vincey and hit us with some playoff scores here.
All right, so with the scores, here we go on Saturday, super wild card weekend. Got to get the name right. The first game off the bat was San Francisco 49ers all over Seattle, 41-23. They pulled away in the second half and didn't look back. And Jacksonville, surprisingly, in one of the top three biggest comebacks in playoff history.
Yeah, baby.
They come back 31-30 over the Los Angeles Chargers. We'll dive into all these games in further detail. Let's get through the rest of these scores. Buffalo on Sunday survive against Miami 34-31. Almost blew up everybody's bracket there. New York Giants end up with the upset over Minnesota 31-24. Cincinnati ends up holding on against Baltimore, another almost bracket buster game, 24-17. Cincinnati does hold on. And then on Monday Night Football, the Dallas Fraud Boys end up beating the Tampa Bay Fraudineers 31-14. So let's dive into the games that happened. Let's circle back to the Niners game first. Seattle was actually up 17-16 at half. But I was not really worried. You guys actually asked me in the chat, hey, Vince, you worried? You vapor locked to your seat? And I said, no, I have my eyebrows gently raised up. And then when the second half started and the Niners started scoring touchdowns instead of field goals and Seattle couldn't get anything going, that's when I was like, lowers eyebrows, because I was not concerned at all. I was very confident, and the Niners went out and handled business. Brock Purdy is looking more and more like he might end up actually being the dude. I like to believe that you can make a prediction, but you also need to stay water, like Bruce Lee used to say. If something moves, if something changes, go with the flow, man. Be water. So
I believe the phrase was, you must be like water. The cup. Water becomes the cup.
That's right. But the point is, I think Brock Purdy obviously he's been crushing it, and it's going to make the decision in the offseason that much more difficult the better as he continues to play absolutely lights out football. I'm not willing to back off on my stance just yet, because I do believe that it will be an open competition at quarterback no matter what going forward for the in the offseason. And I think Trey Lance may even be named, at least initially. He'll get the first shot with the first team, and it just kind of depends on who plays better in the preseason games. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm certain whatever happens, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So go ahead, guys. Go ahead and tell me why I'm wrong.
All the reasons, everything you said. Like to just if he wins the Super Bowl, man, he is week one starter.
Man, probably. You know what? That would be tough to argue. I don't know. I'm not willing to make that commitment until
what don't you know?
I understand
What do you know?
your point of view about the draft capital
Yeah.
and what I get that, but the winning the Super Bowl, it washes that away.
That's a very good point, but he hasn't won the Super Bowl yet. I can only react to what has happened thus far. And I'm willing to change my opinion should I be given new information. That's what we tell everybody, right? If you receive new
Sure.
data, you can make you can make more informed decisions. I'm just saying, as of right now, as it stands right now in this moment, it's still going to be an open competition. If the Niners continue to win and move forward, I am willing to reevaluate that. But as it stands right now, it's still going to be until the Niners get to the Super Bowl and win, and hopefully win it. Then we can have that discussion. Until then, I can only evaluate to this point. So that's all I'm going to say on that for now, until Tyler says something and makes me have to jump in again.
I will tell you this. I am 1 foot in with you, Vince, and I am 1 foot out. All right?
Okay.
Now, let me tell you this. You do not win that game if you had the fuck's his name that broke his fucking ankle.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Jimmy G. You do not win that game if you have Jimmy G. Now, to say Brock Purdy looked good is a flat out lie, in my opinion. He looked horrible in the first half. And you win that game because your superstars did what they were supposed to do. Deebo Samuel bailed you out. Christian McCaffrey bailed you out. That defense bailed you out. Brock Purdy didn't win that game. The superstars that you paid won that game. So to say that Brock Purdy is the man, I'm not willing to lean on that fence after watching this playoff game, but it is also his first playoff game. So that's why I'm half in, half out. He got the jitters. Then he gave the ball to Deebo Samuel in the second half, and the history was written. He got calm, started stepping into the pocket, stopped going out to the left and throwing the ball to God knows who knows in section 35 row C.
He absolutely missed guys completely in the first half, and that was absolutely playoff jitters. I'm certain of that, but he did look a lot better in the second half. And
I'm not ready to jump on and say that he's the guy, but he looked good in the second half, got completely bailed out by an awesome offense. And I'm on the fence with you about saying that, if he doesn't make it past the next round, will he be your starter going into the season? I think he's earned that right to be so if Jimmy G is not here. But then again, I think it also should be a QB battle camp. You did give draft capital to Trey Lance for that reason. But I still think I'm leaning 51% Brock Purdy. If the season ended next week, 51% Brock Purdy, 49% Trey Lance.
I think if the Niners shit the bed against the Cowboys this coming week, then it absolutely is Trey Lance as QB1 going into the offseason programs. I think that they need to be able to give Trey Lance every opportunity. Let's not forget, this was supposed to be the year he takes over. He started that first game against Chicago, and that was a fucking monsoon. Nobody looked good in that game. Okay. So I write that one off. And then he gets injured in the second game before he had a chance to really start doing anything Trey Lance is supposed to be able to do. So I think a lot of people are forgetting a lot of the tangible skills that Trey Lance does have. They kind of just forgot about it because if you see what's in front of you, and Trey Lance is not in front of us right now. He's not out there on the field making plays.
I will say this though. Trey Lance it's supposed to be his year, it's supposed to be his team. But Todd Gurley said the most famous quote that I can think of: "Your best ability is your availability." And I know that Mike Shanahan, Shanahan's playbook made him. I think he got hurt because of Shanahan's playbook. Instead of running outside, he ran up the middle. It's a terrible call to do with your QB, but still, your best ability is your availability. And right now, Brock Purdy is your best player right now at quarterback position.
No, that's absolutely true. And but again, it's just a matter of I'm going to keep circling back to it. It is the draft capital. They're going to give Trey Lance every opportunity to prove that that he isn't the guy, or at least that Brock Purdy is a better guy. They're going to give Trey Lance the first bite of the apple, I guess, is the only point I'm trying to make. That being said, if they do keep winning and keep going forward. Again, I'm willing to reevaluate and change, because that's what grown-ups do. They get new information and then they reevaluate and make better informed decisions, better informed statements.
You hear
So
that,
as of
Sam?
right
We're not
now,
grown up.
I guess not. I'm just like watching a guy ball out playing the quarterback position, which is probably the most difficult position in professional team sports. It's not just I remember being guilty of this, of thinking that this guy was going to be sacked left and right. And I remember hearing a lot of talking heads, the big higher up, the ESPNs, the Fox Sports and SI.com saying like he's not very athletic. And this dude is avoiding sacks. This last week he avoided a sack, rolls out and throws a strike.
yeah.
So he's surprisingly athletic, more athletic than anybody really gave him credit for. But it's between the ears, it's the decision making, it's in his first year. And you have do you think this is his ceiling, or is he going to get better? Physically, maybe we could say this is his max. Physically, maybe we can say that because we don't know. But mentally, you have to think, if the dude got the offense this quick, like what can he do moving forward? And has Trey Lance ever shown that? Has Jimmy Garoppolo shown that? I mean, Jimmy G's a relatively big dude. He has all of the physique. He has the look of he has everything that we think a starting quarterback should be, but he hasn't. I know he got to the Super Bowl, and there's the one throw, there's a few throws, but there's the big throw where he missed the touchdown.
Yeah, that third and long. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But we can also talk about the missed interceptions, so what I'm getting at is Jimmy G hasn't even looked this good in this offense ever. And he's been in it for years. So I just think when we say, not that, when people are criticizing Brock Purdy now, I don't know if this guy's going to be a Hall of Famer, but I think this is hell of a lot more than a flash in the pan. And it's more what we're seeing is his mental capacity to make decisions. And I don't think we've seen a quarterback in the Kyle Shanahan system play it better. Not as a 49er. He had the MVP season with Matt Ryan in Atlanta, and RG3 had a great year. I'm just saying, man, they look lockstep, understand.
Yeah.
Everything.
No, I actually agree with you, and I'm very pleased with how Brock Purdy has played thus far. And I think part of my reservation is, it's the old school NFL thinking about a rookie, they're going to make mistakes at some point, and I'm a little bit scared that he hasn't really made mistakes at this point. And so I'm wondering when that shoe is going to drop, if that shoe is going to drop.
But are you scared because of Jimmy G and you're used to that?
Yeah, that could be part of it. I could be facing a little PTSD from bad Jimmy showing up when we needed him least. So I mean, that's why I'm very cautious about how I'm really getting hyped for Brock Purdy, because I'm excited every time he plays, and he's done nothing but give me hope. And it's just, old habits die hard, I guess. And that circles back to being water. And if he plays well again this week, I might just throw all my old takes in the trash, and go forward. I don't know. We just got to see how it goes.
Just to finish off my point about this situation too, is I heard a really interesting thing on the radio where they were talking about how Tom Brady plays the quarterback position, where, he doesn't have the biggest arm. He didn't have the strongest arm to hit certain throws. But he used that weakness to an advantage. I believe it was Michael Irvin talking about how he played the quarterback position inside out, is how Michael Irvin described it. And that he used his inefficiencies people that what they called weaknesses, he was able to do other things and exploit the weakness of a defense, which was his strength. And I see a little bit of that in Brock Purdy, where he's not risking throws that are like clearly triple defended. He's not making like throws that would be high percentage interceptions. Even the play where like things get weird, where you put the ball on a spot and it has opportunity to be tipped up for an interception. There's all these little tiny things with his decision making, and I think he's a passer who can run. I think he's going to develop into a pocket passer who has the ability to run, where Trey Lance, I think he's more of a runner learning how to pass. And I don't think I'm not out on Trey Lance's potential, or his, what he can do as an NFL quarterback. I think he might be, a day late and a dollar short. He just might arrive a little bit later than what the 49ers front office hoped for. And they might have fell into a real steal with Brock Purdy. And I would say, would you, if Trey Lance flashes, but if you're the 49ers and you have injury concerns, would you be able to get anything back for Trey Lance on his potential? So I don't know. It's fun. No matter how the season ends for the 49ers, they're going to be a 365-day talking point, because how it ends in this quarterback situation, even if it ends with Dallas and Purdy throws 4 interceptions, they lose, you're still going to have, he looked really good for that winning streak in that first playoff game. Is he going to compete? So it's just going to be interesting how it all unfolds.
I want to get the train rolling here, and we're still going to stay with the 49ers here. I just had one question and we'll leave here. Okay. Sam, to your point here, he looks great in these games, and in the 10 game or 9 games I think he's played or something like that, right? I think it's something like that. But anyways,
about 7.
Does he still look good in your eyes? And we're going to play devil's advocate. I don't know if you can answer it, but maybe you can. Does he still look good if he doesn't have the stud talent that's around him? Do you still think that he'll make those good decisions? Let's say we keep the same O-line that he's got right now, but just not the same wide receiver talent. Do you think he still makes that same decisions?
I mean, do I think they have like a 10-game winning streak or, whatever winning streak? Maybe not. But I still think what's going on between the ears, the brain, the capacity, the decisions, I think that would still show up. Okay. Maybe he doesn't have the wide receivers or running back, the skill positions that he has, but I still think he would, show flashes, maybe not be as consistent, because he gets bailed out a lot. I mean, yeah, he's got a great tight end and a great running back. That's a young quarterback's best friend, so, he has those things, but, hey, these are the cards that he's dealt, and he's looking all the part. And that's really all we can judge on. We could say this could be Trey Lance if he was healthy, but he's not. He's not. And the same thing with Jimmy Garoppolo. So I'm just saying that the evidence right now says this dude's really fucking good. Right now.
I think he's definitely bailed out by the benefits that are around him here. I do want to, we'll circle back to this 49ers here. And the reason being is because I want to talk about the Monday night, the Dallas and the Tampa Bay game, which will ultimately lead us back to the 49ers anyways. So
okay. Let's dive into that.
So obviously Dallas looked pretty dominant the whole game, minus their kicker who he missed 4 out of 5. So
4 out of 5. Yep. Doink, 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 doink.
So Mayer definitely had the yips that game, but I think Dallas converted 2 4th downs, which both resulted to touchdowns. So Dak threw 5 touchdowns. I think he threw for like 370 yards or something crazy like that. So,
I mean, Troy Aikman said that was Dak's best game he's ever seen him play, and Troy Aikman sees every single Dallas Cowboy game. So I don't watch that much Dallas Cowboys. I've only seen, highlights and games over the years. But they looked really good. I think I picked Tampa Bay. I'm pretty sure I did. I said, Tom Brady's not going out like that. I said Dallas was going to lose the game more than Tampa Bay won the game. And I was wrong, but now I'm really excited for the Dallas Cowboys opponent.
Yeah, I think one thing that is telling to me if I were you, Vince, and I'd be a little concerned. And I've said this even when the Cowboys beat the Eagles in week 14, or 15, it was that their run defense is pretty good. It's not a fluke. Micah Parsons is pretty good. They're getting back that Vanderblock kid. So it's going to be a good run defense. You can beat them in the secondary, but they're going to make you a one-dimensional team. And I guess my concern is that Micah Parsons isn't a conventional linebacker. He sets up where he thinks the weak spot is, and that's not a usual thing. And I'm curious as to what you think, Vince, is that Brock Purdy looked a little troubled by soft pass rushing that I think he ended up having to roll out, and then they figured it out in the second half. But Dallas's defense is a completely different animal. Are you at least worried about this defense at all?
Dallas's defense is obviously better than Seattle's defense. I'll start with that. Okay. Hot take. I know. That being said, I think because like their run defense is obviously great, but when have they gone against Christian McCaffrey? And Christian McCaffrey specifically in the 49ers offense, in Kyle Shanahan's offense, which turns everyday schmucks into fucking Pro Bowl running backs. I mean, we look at Raheem Mostert. He was fast, but he couldn't get any playing time until he was 30 years old and on the 49ers. And he became, the Raheem Mostert that fantasy football players loved until he got hurt. Same with Jeff Wilson Jr. That was another guy that was just off the scrap heap and suddenly was, a winner for people that play fantasy football. I keep circling back to fantasy football, but statistically, a lot of people really loved him. And I mean, hell, even who was the running back? That was he was on Atlanta and came over to the 49ers with. He was backing up. Coleman. Yeah. Tevin Coleman. Tevin Coleman had some really good games for the 49ers in this offense. And he had some good games for Atlanta with Kyle Shanahan at the helm as well. And so, I mean, this running back system that Kyle Shanahan imposes is the best in the league. And you have the best running back in the league operating the best running back offense in the league. This is a test that Dallas hasn't faced either. So yeah, their run defense might be strong, but the Niners running attack is really strong as well. So I'm cautiously optimistic. Long story short, I am cautiously optimistic about the 49ers being able to selectively choose when to deploy running plays, or having Christian McCaffrey, the running back, maybe line up in the backfield and go out as a pass, like on a motion or something like that. So I mean, there's more that Christian McCaffrey is going to get his. Okay. I'm not worried about that part of it. I don't know if he'll get in the end zone or not. Touchdowns are the toughest thing to predict, but I know that he's still going to play well because he is an all pro caliber player who got snubbed out of a Pro Bowl spot this year because he spent half the year in Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, Leonard Fournette to me is not a slouch by any means, but he was held to only 11 yards, on 5 carries, where Rashad White,
but
41 yards,
honestly,
and 7 carries.
Tampa Bay looks terrible this year. I mean, everybody looks old. I'm terrified as a Raider fan. I still support the Raiders, even though I'm pissed off about the whole situation. Like, I really hope that Tom Brady is not the option. I mean, unless it is Stidham or Tom Brady, I guess I'll go with Brady. But if there's there's rumors about Aaron Rodgers. I'd rather get Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams,
Oh God.
I'd
Devontae
rather
might
go- so.
retire. Devontae
I'd
may
rather go that
retire.
route if that's possible. But I mean, Tampa Bay, they didn't look good here. They just couldn't get in rhythm. So I mean, Leonard Fournette getting 11 yards against a really good Dallas defense. I mean, the thing to piggyback a little bit off of what Vince is saying is, I think we said this before, is, Christian McCaffrey is a running back who can be a wide receiver, and Debo's a wide receiver who can play running back. I think they can thin Dallas's defense out, spread them wide, audible McCaffrey, you're moving Debo, and, Elijah Mitchell has shown that he's been pretty good when his number is called. So I think what it's going to come down to, honestly, it's going to come down to Brock Purdy. And I believe this is going to be the game where the legend is really born. I really believe that, because he's going up against a very good defense, but I think the 49ers defense is, just as good, if not a little bit better.
The statistics say they're the number one defense. The 49ers,
Bosa is a monster. I mean, he absolutely wrecks the game in so many ways. And so does Micah Parsons. I just think the 49ers defense is a little bit better. And I think that Brock Purdy's, this is birth of a legend. This is going to be a big thing. And I think it's coming down to that little bit of an it factor. I mean, Purdy kind of reminds me a little bit of Joe Burrow, and he just makes the plays, man. And I think the 49ers are a little bit better.
That's fair. You got any more on this, Vince?
No. I think we should probably just, get a little couple of points in on some of these other games that happen wild card weekend before we move on to making our picks for this coming week, divisional weekend. So I think let's go back to the Jacksonville and the Chargers game.
Doug Peterson, baby.
Yeah, that's right. I saw videos of Philly fans like openly weeping, saying, "I'm so happy for Doug Peterson."
I said last week that I got love for Doug. It's just, front office and him had different views and opinions on things, but Doug was never the problem. Carson Wentz was the problem.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're down 27-0 at that point. It's supposed to be a laugher. You're supposed to be, you're on to the next week already. And then you only get 3 points. Yeah. Sunshine shows up in the second half. That's another guy. Maybe he just needed to get some some first half jitters, out of his system, because he was as bad as he looked. He looked terrible in that first half. It was embarrassing. He had 5 turnovers, right? 4 picks. It was disgusting.
I heard some people calling Trevor Lawrence. They were calling him Trevor Lawrence of Arabia because he came back in the second half. He showed up.
You know what I love?
He balled out.
Lawrence? You know what I love about it all is that he balled out, did what he had to do, won that game. The last second. But I love that he went to Waffle House afterwards. It was just like, I'm just gonna go to Waffle House.
Yeah, he's ready to fight, man. I love it. He's also still in his entire lifetime undefeated on Saturdays.
On Saturdays, yeah.
On Saturdays, every Saturday game he's ever played in his life, he has won. At least we
also
know of. I don't know. There might have been some Pee Wee League game when he was 4 that he didn't win. I don't know. I didn't check the stats back that far.
We also didn't say it, but also the 49ers, every time an opponent has played them this year, have gone on to lose the next game. So yep. I guess you could say Seattle's going to lose the next game too, because there is no more games for them too. So I guess that still stays true.
Right. Yeah. So I mean that stat is going to hold firm for the rest of the year. I think no matter what. I guess technically, if the Niners, shit the bed against Dallas and lose, then you can see Dallas lose the following week, and that might go 16-0 on 0-16 on that stat. But
I want to switch over to the Chargers real quick. Yeah. Did you guys see Bosa throwing his helmet down and
Oh yeah, Joey.
Staley picking it up and handing it to him, then he throws it down again. I
got
mean,
the
it's
flag.
it's just a bad look. How do you come back with that, coach? Like,
They're getting rid of the offensive coordinator.
That's
What
your-
they're doing. They
That's
fired
your-
the OC.
oh,
That's your bad
God.
take from that. You guys don't know the rest of this. So Bosa gets interviewed after the game. This is Joey Bosa, just to clarify.
Yeah, go
and
ahead.
Joey Bosa gets interviewed after the game, and he's talking about that referee that didn't call an obvious holding call, right? But he didn't get called, right? So Joey Bosa in the post-game interview is just saying that he's tired that these refs don't get penalized, and that this ref doesn't get penalized for, making blown calls, and it aggravates, it pisses him off. That ref is probably going back and saying like, "Oh, I got him, right?" And this is where you're like, okay, I get it. Now keep in mind, this is an African-American ref, and then Joey Bosa then ends the interview by saying, "I'm just fucking sick and tired of these people." And I was like, oh, it was all good until you said that. So we're already on record that him and his brother are nicknamed Confederate Bosas. And then he goes and says that. So it got a little worse at the end of the game.
Ugh, that's not a good look at all. I did not hear that. So that's, if he had said these refs, he'd still be in the clear.
He'd be
But
He
now
said these people.
when he says these people, that's when you add in a little bit of potential racism, I guess. I want to keep us from saying something too,
Yeah,
bad, but
I'm not gonna go that far.
Yeah.
But I hear what you're saying. I hear the context. But I mean, I don't know the guy. It's not something I would have said. Or at least I don't think I would have said something like that. But that's a dumb comment to make. He probably shouldn't have said that, just because of how it gets interpreted, because that's kind of like one of those things where it's like it can be interpreted that way,
Well, it doesn't help when you already have a track history as well, so that doesn't bode well in its own right. But
I'm assuming he's referencing the refs because he's talking about refs should be held to a higher standard. So I'm assuming that, but
he then says,
even
that
giving him the
ref.
benefit of the doubt, I'm like, dude, you should
Yeah,
be a little better.
His
Be
statements
careful.
go from these refs to that ref is probably sitting in the back saying he got me to I'm sick and tired of these people. So it escalated.
Yeah,
step by
I hear
step.
you. I hear you.
Yeah.
So again, head coach isn't getting fired from Chargers. I don't think it's going to happen anymore. I think the OC being fired now, it's pretty much solidified that I think that unless something drastically changes, head coach will not be fired. He'll be back next year. You guys think the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, I was really thinking Brandon Staley would be the guy to lose his job. If him and Mike McCarthy, they were on the hottest seats of the playoff teams. But obviously Mike McCarthy won, so he's just earned himself another year because of Jerry Jones. And so that means Brandon Staley losing. He probably should have got the axe. And I mean, we called it out last week. That being said, you fire the offensive coordinator. That's the last bullet you got, a guy that can take a bullet for you. So if something happens next year, if they, get off to a poor start, it's Staley's done. So like his seat
he's
is
going to have a very
absolutely,
short leash.
yeah, that is, he might as well be sitting on a volcano. That is a hot seat, man. I do not want to be that guy going into next year.
Well, going from one short leash to another, is Harbaugh here next year after that game against Cincy?
John Harbaugh.
Yes.
I think so. I think Baltimore and Pittsburgh, those are two teams that do not like to make changes unless they absolutely have to. And I mean, John Harbaugh got them into the playoffs again. And I don't see, if he was going to be fired, it would have happened by now already. We would have already heard about it. I think his job is safe. His job is safe and secure, at least through next year, at least for sure. I don't know what happens next year, but
I don't know. I don't know what's going on between the franchise and Lamar Jackson. I I'm not tapped into every single detail of what Baltimore's doing. But it seems like this contract negotiation before the year and the extension is like both sides are a little salty, about some stuff and this injury, and there's some weirdness going on. So I think if there's a chance that Baltimore can retain Lamar Jackson, the only way Harbaugh does not come back is if it's because there's a beef between him and Lamar Jackson. Otherwise,
I think they're tied together. I really do.
Yeah.
And I think that game was so poorly managed by Harbaugh in the last minute. You have 2 timeouts with a minute left, and you're on the 35-yard line, and you get to the goal line, and you don't call or use a single timeout. I think it's atrocious. I think that's a terrible play calling from a coach that's been there for over a decade at this point. So
yeah,
I think Harbaugh is tied to Lamar Jackson. If they don't retain Lamar Jackson, I think Harbaugh will see the door, and I don't think that's going to be a shocker. Lastly, let's touch base on the choke artist known as the Minnesota Vikings. Jesus, the legend of Kirk Cousins just won't die.
Yeah.
Like, he writes his own story and kills himself every single season.
Man, it's uncanny how many times we see, primetime Kirk Cousins can't get the job done. I mean, he won one nighttime game in his entire life. I mean, like in the NFL level, and that happened fairly recently. It might have even been this year. I don't know. But they were like 11-0, I think, in close games this year, 1-score games. And when you're in that many 1-score games and you keep coming out on the good end of it, sooner or later, that's going to start to balance out. So not only did Minnesota lose this game, I think next year they might have trouble reaching 500 because, oftentimes we saw that with the Raiders this year. Last year, they won all of those close games. This year, they kept blowing away leads because they couldn't, the pendulum swung back the other way. They regressed to the mean and then a little bit past that. So I think Minnesota is a prime candidate for regression next year. They won way too many close games, and that doesn't happen typically year after year.
Yeah. I 100% agree, Vince. You hit the nail on the head.
I just don't understand how your last play, you need 8 yards and you throw a 3-yard check down to your tight end. That makes absolutely no sense. I don't know. You think he was going to break for 5 yards on it's a dumb play, dumb call altogether. But now my Eagles get to play the New York Giants next week. I'm super excited for it. I'm also a little bummed because I'm going to be at a friend's birthday party, so I'll probably be watching on my phone the whole entire time. So sorry, bud. But priorities, so
priorities.
Priorities.
Okay. Couple of things to touch on here. It looks like we have a neutral side if KC and Buffalo should meet in the following round after this. I think that should be fun. Do we know what the
It's Atlanta.
Okay.
Right? Was it Atlanta that they decided on? I thought it was.
I think you're right on that.
I feel like I heard them say
I don't know.
Atlanta.
Let's flip a coin. Let's find out. So last thing I want to touch base to as well, while Vince is trying to figure out where that stadium is going to be, Derek Carr finally penned.
It is Atlanta. It is Atlanta. Yeah. Okay. Moving on.
Perfect. So Derek Carr finally pens his goodbye to the Raiders organization. I know that we need to get to other sports, so make sure you monitor yourself, Sam. But you may have the floor.
Man, it's just it's sad, because I've said this a few times already, is for the past 9-10 years, he was kind of the only player that was decent. He holds a lot of the all-time passing records for the Raiders. A lot of that had to do with longevity, since he was with, the franchise for the amount of time he was. I'm not the biggest Derek Carr defender. I've criticized this guy a majority of his career. Now the tables have turned, and really I'm not defending his play. I'm not defending his, clearly he didn't get it done to a level that I think fans, coaching, everybody expected. He didn't look the same. However, even with that said, I just thought he could have been shown a little bit more respect as a veteran who's exiting. And also, this is kind of a similar, I think what worries many Raider fans out there is, as much as we want to believe in a process and, getting this team competitive to win a Super Bowl, is you want to trust it. But it's hard when this is the same exact situation that happened in Denver with Josh McDaniels. I mean, it is the same exact situation. And it's a little concerning for me because at that time, Jay Cutler was a pretty considered an upper third quarterback as far as a quarterback passer. And on the way out, it was a lot of bad mouthing of Jay Cutler, and he left, and Jay Cutler is kind of a weirdo, and there's been reports about him. But now on the way out, there's a lot of reporters who during the season defended Derek Carr and put all that blame on coaching, are now throwing shade at Derek Carr. And that's coming from the organization, clearly. I'm not a fan of the organization kind of taking shots at Derek Carr or any player on the way out, somebody who has been here for 10 years. So I just think the Raiders could have showed a little bit more class. The Raiders publicly, openly say that they want to be the organization that treats former players the best. There's a cliche of, once a Raider, always a Raider. That was Al Davis's personal belief. There's just a lot of things that don't seem very Raider tradition, other than
Right.
losing and blowing games. So that's really all I got. I wish Derek Carr the best, and I hope he goes to the Jets with Vince's boy,
Robert Saleh.
Yeah, and
well, let's save that, because what I want
all
to
right.
do is next week I have we're pressed for time.
Yeah.
I have a conspiracy theory that I have with the Raiders, and I think it will go in well with where we think Derek Carr's next landing spots will be. So
Sounds
we'll save that for next week. But yeah, no, I do wish all the best to Derek Carr in his next endeavors, and I agree with you that once a Raider, always a Raider. But
and you don't get Devontae Adams without Derek Carr, and kind of feels like, hey, we'll suck it up and get Derek Carr. We'll keep Derek Carr for a year. We get Devontae Adams. We get Derek Carr out of here. I don't know. There's just a lot of weird stuff going on in Raiderland. So
I agree. I agree.
For sure.
Well, let's jump into the fun part of the night here. We had picks last week as far as who we thought were going to move on to the next rounds. I don't want to tell you how I know how to pick things, but it seems like I know how to pick things here. So, Vince, who's in the lead here?
All right, so Tyler got 5 out of 6 games right on Wild Card Weekend. The only one he got wrong was the Vikings, which we all got wrong because we all picked the Vikings like idiots instead of the Giants.
Yes.
Sam had 4 right, and I have 3 right. Now this is a reminder that Wild Card round was worth 1 point. Division round is going to be worth 2 points for each pick. So nobody is out of it yet. Championship will be 4 points, and Super Bowl will be 8 points. Also, I think I'm going to give some bonus points if you picked Super Bowl participants in the preseason correctly. So me and Sam still have both of our teams alive. Tyler still has the Bengals alive. The Rams are not. So we got a chance here still. Plenty of time, plenty of playoff football to get these picks made.
My bracket ain't busted.
Nope, neither is mine. So that being said,
Wait. You guys didn't pick the Vikings. Wouldn't that mean your bracket is busted?
No,
I mean, I'm talking about
You picked the Giants.
our
It's not
Super Bowl picks.
the Super Bowl picks from the preseason when me and Sam both picked the Niners and Bills, but we have different winners, and you picked the Bengals and the Rams. So
Your Super Bowl
I don't think
pick
it's-
is
I don't think
Super
it's a
Bowl
bracket.
preseason.
I think it's just a
It's-
2 pick.
And yeah, no. So I mean, this is not a bracket. It's
I think Jimmy Buffett would have a different idea what a bracket looks like when you're trying to win $1 million from him.
yeah, whatever. Jimmy Buffett, whatever. I don't need to insult the man. He's made millions. Have fun, buddy. I don't give a shit. Okay,
Hey, he's great. I love it. So what do we
All
got?
right.
Let's go.
Moving on. So Philadelphia gets to play host to the Giants. So Tyler, I have to imagine you're gonna pick your boys, right? You're not gonna shy
Yeah.
away from this, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll let you guys do your hot takes. It's pretty straightforward. Giants, look, you've had a great season. Dable's been great. You guys are playing motivated, but you're just gonna hit a brick wall. Unfortunately, sorry, hate to say it.
All right, Sam, what do you got? Who do you got? Giants or Eagles?
Who's the starting quarterback for the Eagles?
That would be Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, as long as he's healthy, Eagles are going to win.
He played the last game of the season, and he said pretty much 2 weeks off.
Yeah. So I'm actually on the Eagles as well. So nobody's going to make up any ground on that pick. So the next game that we have, by the way, that Eagles Giants game, that is Saturday at 5:15 p.m. The other Saturday game is the Chiefs playing host to the Jaguars. So Mr. Saturday gets another Saturday game. Anybody willing to jump on this bandwagon? Anybody willing to do it? Anybody going to pick the Jaguars?
It's so
Sam?
tough. And oh god,
I
go
really
ahead, Sam.
I want them to win because nobody likes the Chiefs. I want them to win. I want the Jaguars to win because I really like Trevor Lawrence. As soon as they got Peterson, I said, "Oh my God, he's going to get back on track. He's going to be the quarterback." But unfortunately, the Chiefs are just way too good. Next year though, the Jags could be really good next year.
Yeah, I'm also regrettably on the Chiefs. I would love to see it. I would love to see this upset happen. It would be a lot of fun. The Jaguars have been a lot of fun. I'm with you. I don't know that it's gonna happen this time. I think Trevor Lawrence finally gets his first career loss on a Saturday. Tyler, you gonna do it?
God, it's so hard, man. I mean, look, the Jaguars defense is middle of the pack in the whole league. I think they're like 17th or 16th, something like that. But so is the Chiefs defense. It's not great either. It's literally going to come down to how good is Mahomes this Saturday. Is he enough to overcome any adversities that he might see, which is probably pretty limited. Man, if we agree, we're never gonna be able to break away here.
Don't worry about it. We got don't worry about it. Don't worry about what I'm doing. Worry about what you're doing.
I think Doug Peterson, the Jaguars, are gonna do it. Let's go, baby. Let's roll the dice. 7 on 11.
All right, we got somebody on board. And if this fucking happens, if this happens, man, I'll be happy to lose the points on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Sunday, 12 p.m. Bengals are traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Tyler, I have to imagine you're sticking with your Bengals, right?
Yeah, I don't have a choice on that one. But also, too, I do think watching that game, Bills looked a little rattled. Do they have enough firepower to beat the Bengals? Sure. But I think the Bengals are going to get it done. They've gotten their face rubbed in the dirt a couple times here, and they're over it. We want a rematch, and they want it. They're here for it. All
right. So I'm going to pick the Bills because I think the storyline is really good with the whole Damar Hamlin situation. I think, and also I had the Bills preseason, so I really need them to come through as well. So Sam, what about you?
I definitely got sticking with the Buffalo Bills. This game is really crazy with the whole plot lines and Hamlin and the game being canceled and the quarterbacks, the young quarterbacks, both of them are amazing. I really like both teams, like just to watch. Like they're just both really fun teams to watch, but I think the Bills are going to pull it out.
Totally fair. So that leaves us with the closest thing to prime time that we have. It is the Niners and Cowboys game. I'm going to shock you all. And by shock you all, I mean not shock you all, and pick the 49ers to win. I think the 49ers are they're possessed. Basically, they have they have one of the hottest quarterbacks in the league. We've gone in depth on him earlier in this podcast. We know the defense is a top one defense in the league, and I'm just really excited to expose the fraud boys and to handle Tyler's light work. Let's go. Bang,
Go ahead,
Niner
Sam.
gang.
Go ahead, Sam.
49ers all the way, man. Brock Purdy is the it factor. He has it. He's going to lead this team past the Cowboys. You know, McCarthy didn't mess up the game last week, but he's due. He'll do it this week. So.
I love it. All right, Tyler, you going to do it?
Boy, last week I said I wanted all that smoke. I said I'm about all that action. And I'm going to miss my opportunity to take advantage of that? No, sir. Cowboys in an upset. And I'll even do this. You can minus 1 point if I'm incorrect here. Cowboys win by a field goal, 3 points.
You know what? I will not take you up on that because I just want to keep the math simple. I already have my formulas set up in my tracker. I don't want to have to recode everything. I'm not in the mood.
My picks are colorful.
Yeah, you are. Me and Sam are lockstep this week.
You guys are
going
Christmas colors.
Yeah, you're going out on a limb in 3 out of 4 of these games. So we're gonna see either some separation or we're gonna get bunched up again, man.
I'm gonna get so much hate for picking the Cowboys over the 49ers, and I get it. The 49ers should win this game, but I really want this action. There's been way too many Cowboy fans talking to me that I can't let it go. I just can't.
I don't know who you are anymore, Tyler. I don't know.
I can't do it. I already have friends that are 49ers fans that everybody told me that they're not going to talk to me anymore. They said
win with them.
They said
I want winners.
The 49ers, if the Eagles and the 49ers play against each other, they're going to be like, I don't even know who you are. You're not even a person to me anymore. You're just an acquaintance of an acquaintance.
That's right. You're just a battery throwing at Santa schmuck. That's what you are.
What?
Oh, you don't know, Tim?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, I don't know.
Team. It's
Tim,
your team.
We the Eagles fan base is the best fan base and by far the worst fan base out of any fan base. Bills Mafia could be interesting. The Eagles fans could be that way, but we're not. We're terrible people. They have thrown frozen batteries at Santa Claus at football games. There was a dead football player and they brought a coffin with his name on it. Like, they're terrible, terrible people. And the only people who are fans of Philly fans are Philly fans. So, you know, I advocate what they do? 100% not. Do I agree that they're the worst fans of all? Yes, and I relish that.
I mean, I hear it's always sunny over there, so I don't know why they're so so bad.
That episode is all rage fits about the Eagles. That's quintessential an Eagle fan right there. That whole show, the way they talk about the Eagles is exactly how I talk about the Eagles. So it's a perfect dynamic right there.
Perfect.
All right, so I guess that wraps up our divisional round picks. Just one quick reminder, we'll break it down. Eagles and Giants, we're all on the Eagles. Niners, Cowboys, me and Sam have the Niners. Tyler has the Cowboys. Chiefs, Jaguars, me and Sam on the Chiefs. Jaguars is the pick from Tyler. And then Bills, Bengals, me and Sam both pick the Bills. Tyler picks the Bengals. Tyler just wants to be different, I guess. He wants
I'll tell you
to
right now, if I pick these right, I'm buying a lottery ticket immediately after Sunday's game.
Yeah, as you should, I think. Yeah, that at that point, if you go, especially with the Jaguars pick, man, like if the Jaguars pick happens, and that's the first game this weekend, that might actually have me shaking in my boots more than anything the Cowboys will say or do. So, okay, so there is your picks, and we are on the board, and we are ready to roll for next weekend.
Sweet. All right, boys and girls. I think it's time to jump into some fun fanfare that happened over the past week. And I'm talking about the NBA. The NBA set a record. And Vince, where do they play? What was the number?
So 68,323 fans paid to watch a basketball game at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio to watch the Warriors take on the Spurs and to watch the Warriors absolutely wax the Spurs. They won 144 to 113, and it wasn't as close as the score might indicate.
Yeah, it was a great game. I actually got to tell you, I kind of got motion sickness from that game, and then I got over it a little while. It's how far away the camera boom was actually from the actual court that was kind of a weird dynamic for me. And then they had this really cool sky cam, and you got to see like plays break down, and you got to see Curry's movement and Clay and Pool's movement and how the offense and the defense works. I kind of think that might be a blueprint going forward for other NBA games. I know that the finals sometimes has a sky cam, but this legit had a sky cam that they would show throughout the game that I think should be implemented more. I think you get a better dynamic of what's going on the court, and you can see things develop a lot better than if you're just looking as if you're in, the 15th row up on the side there. So I like it. It was great. I'm super excited that the Warriors got to set that record too.
I will say I'm not really that huge of a fan of NBA games in massive stadiums. I think most of the fans are a little bit too far away from the action. You got to bring your binoculars to be able to see anything if you're in the second deck or further away. And but because they are so much further away, like you said, you get a lot more interesting things you can do with the cameras. And so the experience for people watching at home, I think, is better. But for the fans that paid to go watch this game, especially if you got some of the cheap seats, man, I don't know that it's worth it to me. I unless I was in the front section, like that's on the field itself, I don't know that I would pay the money to do that. It's a cool thing. It's a cool experience that you can say, oh, remember when? And I think the last time they did this, like I remember Phoenix played at the baseball stadium once. I know that the Bulls held the previous record for attendance because they set up shop at I think it must have been Soldier Field. So yeah, I mean I've seen it before, but I'm not a fan of it as a fan in the stadium. I do like the interesting stuff with the camera work.
Yeah, I thought Skycam was cool. I'd love to see that more. I'd love to see it in a normal weekday broadcast when you're, CSN, whatever area market you're in, Bay Area, Boston, LA, whatever, right? I'd like to see that. I also think that basketball does a good job of coming to the masses in unique ways, So they played in a baseball field. They played in a gigantic football arena. They played on a battleship before. So I think basketball is pretty cool with how they handle certain things like that. But I agree with you that if you're in the Alamo Dome and you're in all the way to the nosebleeds, you're not going to see anything. You're basically watching what you could have watched at home on the big screen over there. So I agree with you on that aspect that being a fan there is not as fun as being a fan on TV and watching it. So just to give you some wrap-up scores on that, before they went to San Antonio, they played against Phoenix, lost 125 to 113. But I do want you to know that Damian Lee did get his ring in front of Chris Paul, who did not play but was present. So shout out to Damian Lee for getting your ring. Thank you for everything you did for the team. Again, we touched on San Antonio. Then we go to absolutely stink the bed against Chicago, 132-118. We had 25 turnovers. It was the most ridiculous thing. They scored like 48 points off our turnovers. It was stupid. And then we go to Martin Luther King Day, and we play an afternoon game against Washington. We end up winning the game 127-118. Much better game. Not as many fouling, very low turnovers. I think we had like 9 or 10 turnovers. So it was great. We are currently sitting 7th in the West at 500 ball. My last question, and we can move on. Are you a buyer or a seller coming this All-Star break, Vince?
If you can be a buyer, you buy. If you're going to sell, you have to sell, to make cap space, basically. That's the only reason to sell at this point. You're committed to this core, though, of, Clay, Dre, and Steph Curry. So I don't, you want to try to get as many titles as you can with this core intact. And I mean, Dre's money is due soon. I don't know, what his market is going to be outside of Golden State. He's far more valuable to Golden State than to any other team, I think. So even if you tried to trade him, I don't think you're going to get the value that you would expect to get for him. So yeah, I think you have to be a buyer, and it's either buy or stand pat. And right now they're a middling club. Right now they're 500. They're 22 wins, 22 losses, and a lot of losses on the road. Almost like they've been historically bad on the road for the Warriors, at least definitely with this core. So I just you got to try to make improvements where you can. Obviously, with the salary situation where it is, you can't do much. You kind of got to nibble around the edges. So, we'll see what happens. I hope they can find somebody to help this team out.
Sam, you're up next. What do you think? Are you buyers or sellers of this season?
Totally a buyer. Well, if they can. I just don't know what they could do. I don't know, because I think Wiggins you can't trade because he signed an extension. So you can't trade Wiggins until the offseason, I believe.
Oh, you are right in that. There's select players that, because of how much they're making,
Yeah.
no team can acquire them. LeBron
Yeah.
James is one of those as too. Yeah, correct.
So there's all these like contract stuff of, who can be traded because they just signed an extension, and then you have to have salary cap numbers match. So I don't know who they would be able to target and dance with. I think you might see something that might be a minor deal that maybe gets a player that fits really well into the system. But I don't think you're going to see, I don't think you're seeing James Wiseman get traded or Kuminga get traded. I don't think we're going to see something like that.
Well, let me shoot out some names that have been populating in the Warriors round, and then you guys tell me if you think it's plausible. We'll call it smoke or fire. Smoke being it's not going to happen. Fire, it's definitely going to happen, right? One of the names, first name being brought around the list here is, oh my God, the point guard for Chicago that I'm drawing a blank on right now, Caruso. Caruso is the number one list for the Warriors. And what do you guys think? Smoke or fire?
I mean, if you can get him, but it depends on what you're giving up, but if you can get him, Caruso's a really good player. Obviously I didn't care for him much when he was a Laker, but that was because he did his job.
He's sandpaper,
Right.
he's just really gritty and really he's a pain in the ass when he's playing against you, but when he's on your team, that's a guy you love to have. He's an irritant. Just an energy guy, and I would love to have him. I don't honestly. I don't know what the trade is gonna be. What are they gonna have to give up to get any of these players? So I'm gonna say smoke, because I don't think they're gonna be able to acquire anybody.
Yeah,
I think
smoke.
the reason why I would say smoke on it too is because you already have that, in DiVincenzo. He's already a gritty point guard who does all the dirty work. I mean, the guy gets rebounds like it's going out of style, right? For a point guard, doesn't make any sense. As far as your draft capital of what you're going to trade, you're definitely going to trade a pick or two. And I hate to say it, but I think Moody might be an asset that could be traded if it should come down to it. And it's only because he's not getting enough play time. He's not getting what to be fair, he's kind of been wrung out of the rotation, unfortunately. And that's only because of how many people are playing at his position. So I think that's one, too. Another name that came up too was Kyle Kuzma. I'm going major smoke on this one. Absolutely. I'm not taking this with a grain of salt.
It's not happening. Yeah. Smoke.
Yep.
All right. And then last one.
It's just not going to work. I just don't think it would work. Like, I don't think there's a deal to be had.
The last one that I'm hearing, he is a free agent. He's a big man. He's a center. His name is Miles Leonard, and he hasn't played because he's been reforming himself after his anti-Jew comments that he said on Twitch 3 years ago. This is before the whole Kyrie Irving, fiasco. That's the other name.
Yeah, I don't want to touch that at all. Let somebody else step on that landmine. Smoke.
Yeah, I don't think they're going there either. No.
Well, good, because Lakers seem to be the front runners to that one, so the Lakers get to handle that mess, which seems unbefitting for them. So,
Yeah,
all right.
they
Well,
can deal with that.
so we're in agreement that the Warriors just going to have to stay pat. They can't sell.
Yeah.
They can't buy. Yeah, it's fine. I think we'll see. I mean, if they can string 3 road games together, it'll change my mind. But until they can do that, I think they might have to probably maybe sell Miles or Moses Moody for draft picks and see what they can get. I think you have to see. You can't win with this. You know, I can't win with them. I can't play with them. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You got to just hope they figure it out, man, because that's all you can do. You're pretty much pot committed at this point, and Joe Lacob is paying out of the ass in luxury tax fees. So
It's true.
if they figure it out, great. If they don't figure it out, maybe this is the sign of it's time to start moving some pieces on, and we'll see what happens. But this is definitely off-season discussion. I don't think that's something
Sure.
for right now. Right now, you're just playing with everything.
Well, you know who did figure it out? Finally, after the 3rd time, Carlos Correa has now become a Minnesota Twin.
Again, he re-becomes a Minnesota Twin.
Dude, this is so stupid.
I'm so confused now.
So stupid.
6 years, 6 years, 200 million. Even in our show doc, you put for real this time in parentheses. Jesus H, fuck, man.
Apparently, okay, so if you haven't been listening, this is your first episode. Let's get you up to speed on Carlos Correa. He signed a massive deal with the Giants. They used a medical doctor to evaluate him. He had a pre-ankle injury or leg injury that the Giants were worried of giving him a long-term contract deal because they think that injury might prove to be a problem in the future. So deal's done. He then ends up going to the Mets and signs a deal with them. But it turns out, just so that we know, we're clarified here, the Mets used the same medical doctor that the Giants use, who then told the Mets the exact same thing that the Giants were told. And the Mets were not wanting to do that deal anymore because they're cautious of this injury. So what ends up happening is then he then goes back to his original team, the Minnesota Twins, and then signs that 6-year deal, not this 13, 12-year deal, whatever that he was going to get. So now you are up to speed. So take it away, boys.
All right. So I mean, I had said prior that it's the length. It was the 13 years from the Giants or the 12 years from the Mets that was giving them the concern. It wasn't the money. The money itself, that's fine, whatever. He's a supremely talented cheater. So so it was the 12 and 13 years that was the problem. But I had said, even if it was like 8 years, maybe that deal gets done, at a whatever the prorated money would have been. So in comes Minnesota. They offer the 6-year deal for $200 million. I mean, that is a supreme chunk of change. You're talking $33.33 million a year on average. So that is it's a nice bit of money to have. Even if you do have to live in the snow.
Minnesota wasn't a slouch last season. I mean, they were a pretty decent team. So I don't think this was a bad deal for Minnesota to do this.
Yeah. And
they basically reacquired everything they had last season too.
Yeah. And 6 years is the point. Like 6 years, if the ankle becomes a problem in year 5, that's fine. You still got most of your value out of that contract anyway. The problem is if it becomes a problem in year 5 for the Giants or the Mets in a 12 or 13-year deal, you're still on the hook for another 7 or 8 years. So that's where the problem was. It was the length of the contract. But now that it's a 6-year thing, it makes sense. I thought even 8 years might be worth it, So, because if you get more than half of the year's worth out of, quality playing time out of him, then I think it's worth it. But so if you get 4 or 5 years out of that deal for the Twins, absolutely worth it. He's in, like I said, I said cheater because he is, but also he's a supremely talented ball player. It's a little bit of Houston Astros hate for those of you unaware. So
trash cans,
trash cans, the trash stros. Yeah. Okay, that's my take.
You got anything else to add to it, Sam?
No, I pretty much agree. Leave it at that.
Nelson Cruz signs a 1-year deal for $1 million to San Diego. Good for him. He's a power hitter who basically just be coming every 13 days to hit off the bench for the team. I do want to note that San Diego has announced that they are all in on Shohei Ohtani next season, and he might be the first player to achieve a $500 million contract, which is insane, massive. To give you some ideas, the Rangers spent $500 million on 2 players last season. So on top of that, the Oakland A's signed one of the top international pitchers and the top 50 international outfielders. And you're thinking to yourself, what? The A's made an acquisition for top talent? You ready, guys? They're 17 years old, so you won't see them for like maybe ever. So
I was about to say, what's the catch?
There's your catch.
We
You can
always
sign them for a lot
knew.
cheaper when they're teenagers.
Yeah.
Teenagers don't need nearly as much money, man.
Yeah.
As the grown-ups.
As we call
True.
it, draft capital when you're trying to make more trades. So Andrew McCutchen's going back to where it all started, baby. Pittsburgh, 1 year, $5 million. Congratulations. I think this is probably going to be his last year, if not maybe next year, but I don't think he's going to leave Pittsburgh again. So I think this would be the send-off for Andrew McCutchen. Had a great career, had some great years with San Francisco as well, too. So congratulations, Andrew McCutchen. I am ready for my duck hunt. Can
All right.
you tell me?
Well, okay, let's start off with the week at large. The Sharks went down to Arizona and won 4-2 at Mullet Arena, which is the college campus that we had talked about before. 4,000 people basically showed up to watch the Sharks get a win over another 2 bad teams going head to head, and the Sharks come out on top 4-2. Then they go over to Los Angeles to play the Kings. The Kings are a lot better team than the Sharks, and the Kings ended up winning 4-3. Then the Sharks come home and play possibly the worst game I think they've played. They lose 7-1 to Edmonton, and again, I'm going to reuse this phrase. The game was not as close as the score might indicate. It was disgusting. I turned it on for a little bit. I started to watch it go downhill, and I was like, you know what? I can't do this to myself. This is torture. I don't need to inflict this kind of pain on me.
There was a lot of blood on the ice. A lot of blood.
A lot of metaphorical blood. And then on Martin Luther King Day, the Sharks hosted the New Jersey Devils and lost 4-3 in the shootout. So you get a little bit of disappointment to go with the bad play. So currently the Sharks are 13 wins, 23 losses, 9 overtime losses.
This is my drum roll. It's my drum roll.
And they are 7th in the Pacific. Bang, bang, quack, quack, motherfucker.
Yes. So we're ahead.
We're still ahead of the Ducks. The Anaheim Ducks are still in the rearview mirror. So here we go.
I do want to tell you guys a fun fact story. Los Angeles, specifically the Kings, is my first experience to like fan slander I have ever gotten my whole entire life. Because
Oh, really?
I went down, I don't know, maybe it was 16, 17 years old. I had a Sharks hat on. I didn't understand rivalries or hatred towards another team that massive because I've been an A's fan. Everyone hates the A's, or I'm sorry, everyone loves the A's fan. You got to feel bad for them, right? But when I went down there, I walked by a bar that apparently had the Kings game on, and they all turned their heads around. We weren't even playing them. The Sharks weren't even playing them. I was just wearing a hat because I had the hat on me. And they all wanted to comment and say something about my Sharks hat and this and that. And this is when we were going to the playoffs, year after year. So I guess there was a little bit of hatred, but that was my first experience to like fan slander. And I was like, I feel welcomed and hated at the same time. I feel like I've arrived.
Yeah. Hockey is a different thing. I will tell you, I was actually in 2014, the Sharks and the Kings played each other. This was the reverse sweep, okay, where the Sharks went up 3-0 and then blew it and lost, okay? So game 5 was in San Jose. I happened to be in LA hanging out with some other friends down there. So he wanted to go watch the UFC fights. It was a Saturday night. I wanted to watch the Sharks and Kings game. So I got my teal hat on, and he's like, you know what? Let's go to the Hooters right across from Staples Center. So we go there, and wouldn't you know it, it's the LA Kings official watch party.
Oh, you screwed up.
So they had the rink girls there. They had the like the announcer was there. They had the horn, and in this game, Mark Edward Vlasic got injured early
Pickles?
on. Yeah, Pickles got injured early on, and so and basically the Sharks just like everybody was out of position on defense, and they ended up losing 3-0. But I tell you what, I was getting it, like I was getting booed and stuff like that, but they actually came away respecting me a little bit because I was one of 2 Sharks fans there, and the other one, his hat was basically the black on black, so you couldn't tell. Like he was just trying to blend in. I was no coward. I had that teal hat on and I rocked it until about 2 minutes left in the game when we left. But so we basically stayed the entire time.
So you dumbfoundedly became a brave soul.
Well, I kind of stumbled into it, but I wasn't scared. I left as soon as I realized what was happening. I left that fucking thing on. I was like, come on, come at me. And they had some fun. They ribbed at me. I was giving it back to them. But because hockey is, the 4th popular sport, sometimes 5th behind soccer, depending on who you ask.
Or which World Cup
there is a little bit of community as well. So like we can bond as hockey fans, but also still give each other shit. But if anybody else gives hockey fans in general shit about liking hockey, that's, we put aside our differences and fuck them up.
I will tell you that a Kings fan here, not me, but like a Kings fan that I know of, it's kind of like the baseball retrospect. And what I mean by that is that we were talking shit about, the Sharks and the Kings. And then we both looked at each other and said, but like, fuck the Knights, right? And it was like, yeah, fuck the Knights, fuck the Knights. And
totally.
That's kind of like if you're in baseball and you want to be a Giants and A's fan and you're like talking all this crap, and then somebody goes, but fuck the Yankees, right? You're like, yeah, fuck the Yankees.
Yeah.
Fuck the Yankees, fuck the Dodgers.
It's like a respectful hate. I respectfully hate the Kings. I mega loathe the Golden Knights. So like, yeah, it's that thing. It's like, fuck you, sir.
Exactly.
Like I make it polite, a polite middle finger. It's got a little top hat,
For sure.
Okay.
Do you have any slander, any stories, Sam, or anything you'd like to share for the rest of the night?
I usually tell it every year when we get to the A's playing Boston, but just being in Boston, in our jerseys, and I was with a group of friends. We used to travel, pick a road trip, and we would go out there. One year, Vince and I and a group of friends, we went to Chicago, and we got to go to a Cubs game and a White Sox game. Boston was fantastic because the A's like kicked that ass. Like the A's were winning and they kicked that ass. And so people were like, you really from Oakland? What's up, dog? Like, like they were like hella cool. We were talking hella shit. They were, as soon as the game was over, high-fiving, great atmosphere. It was just amazing, and I was talking shit, and but they knew it was all for fun, and we talked. The Boston fan knew a lot about the A's minor league system because they know, they're probably going to be a Red Sox.
Yeah. And they're scouting out future players, man. You got to know.
Hey, who's that top player in Oakland? He might look good at it.
It'll be done in a year.
There's just like, I think there's a lot of good history with I know that the A's have been eliminated by the Red Sox in recent decades, I guess.
Yeah.
But Dennis Eckersley was a great Red Sox and he was a great Oakland A. So I think there's players that have, we got Nomar for a year and a half or what
at the end of his career, a year.
And we didn't get a whole lot out of Nomar, but I think we appreciated Nomar, and he was at the tail end of his unfortunate injury prone career, but he was a great ball player, and it was nice to see him for his time. So I think there's been a lot of good sharing of players, as you like to, just say it. But I had a great time in Boston. Chicago, I got my ass. Remember, Vince? The A's blew it against the Cubbies.
Oh
and,
yeah, they shit.
I mean,
the
it
bed
was a
big time.
schmacking.
Yeah.
And there was this one guy was just giving it to Piscotty, like where even the Cubs fans like that are sitting next to us, this one guy like nudges me. He's, with his dad, and I look over at him, and we're all in our A stuff. And the guy's like, I don't know what the hell's up with this guy. Like, did Piscotty sleep with his sister? I mean, I don't understand, because it was
I think that has to
one
boil down to,
fan. This
St.
one
Louis.
fan was giving it to Piscotty, and clearly it was because he was at one time a St. Louis Cardinal.
Yeah.
I also think too. So the Red Sox and the A's have some good. It's now past, a long time past, but in the '80s, when the A's were in their prime and whatnot, there were some good playoff games between the Red Sox and the A's, with the A's eliminating a good portion of Red Sox playoff history there too. So I think there's a good lineage between those two teams.
I was
as
at
well.
the game 1, and Ramon Hernandez squeeze bunt.
The walk-off bunt. Yeah.
Yeah, I was at that game, man. I was at that game. I was talking so much shit to these Red Sox fans that were next to us, big Latino dudes, and they were around us. And then there was these other big A's fans next to us, and he just kept saying, "The big dig sucks, dude." Like, I don't know if you guys know about this mega project that was called the Big Dig, and this is years and years ago. For the young, if there's any youngsters or people, the memory faded. There's this big mega project called the Big Dig in Boston, and this dude was, the big dig sucks, your tunnel's gonna collapse, like just stupid nonsense stuff. And I was like, hey man, why do you keep talking about this tunnel, the Big Dig? And he's like, I don't know, man, I saw it on History Channel. And we started laughing because I seen it too. And we were just like, he was just like, the Big Dig sucks. It was so stupid. But I mean, the Red Sox fans were laughing. Like, it was fun. They were saying stuff back, but I mean, it's fun when a ball game is like that, or a hockey game or whatever. That's what makes it fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, just make sure to never cross that line,
That's true.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely. I think about Brian Stowe, like the Giants fan that got his head collapsed in by those Dodgers fans. So it's fun to talk shit. It's fun to rib each other back and forth a little bit. But, just be respectful and just remember that it's a game. We're there to have fun. At the end of the day, it's not
if the
life
players
or death.
aren't kicking each other's ass, then we don't have to kick each other's ass.
To make a short story here, I mean, me and Sam were talking to Alex Bregman all game long, and we kept it very, PC. We didn't cuss at him. And then another fan thought it was funny, and he wanted to join in, and then he started cussing. And immediately the usher was like, "Hey, there's kids here. Like, chill out." So
exactly.
if you're gonna talk your stuff, do it, but do it in a family-friendly atmosphere. If there's ways to do it, trust us. We lost our home.
And that dude did come over to us, and he did talk to us about heckling, and he was like, "Man, you guys are hella good at heckling, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Never, if you're talking to a player and you're this close, you're going to be heard possibly on the broadcast, and profanity's not going to be allowed. So if you're sitting this close, give them the business, but don't use profanity, man. Like, don't cross that line of personal. Nobody's at your job screaming in you, for doing something wrong or whatever. So it's fun, but we don't don't make it personal against players or fellow fans."
Yeah, he ended up buying us a beer too, which was pretty cool. So, but hey, fellas, it is that time to sound us off here. Vince, I'm going to take your job tonight. Okay, so everybody, wherever you get your podcast, make sure to give us a listen. Make sure to tell your friends and family, whether it be Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast. We are also on YouTube, so make sure you hit that bell, get your alerts. It'll let you know whenever we post a new episode, and make sure to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at SVT Sports Pod. Slide into our DMs. We want to interact with you. We want to know what's going on out there. And if there's some sports news or something fun that you want to tell us, give us a shout out. Let us know. So you fellas, have a great night. Everybody else, have a wonderful evening.
Later.
Later.